Hi everybody, and welcome to the Return Homestead. Today I'm going to be making a keto chili, but I also am going to be making cloud bread. With chilies and soups, I kind of make it up as I go. Usually follow the same procedures when I'm making a chili or making a soup. Also, I'm going to be making cloud bread. It's a keto cloud bread. It's one I've never made before, so I'm not sure how it's going to taste. So normally when we eat chili, we'll put it on a baked potato, nothing but carbs on that. Or we'll use crackers, which 5 crackers has 12 grams of carbs. We try to stay under 30 or closer to 0. We also will eat it with homemade sourdough bread, and sourdough bread's a good bread to eat if you're eating the carbs because it's fermented, but it's made with flour and we're trying to stay away from that. So we're real fortunate to have a local butcher that we get our meat from. So we're using great meat. It's an 80-20 blend of hamburger. I'm going to be adding some sausage to that. Now the sausage is just sausage. It has no fillers in it. So I'm going to put this in the crock pot to cook all day. And I'm going to add the hamburger. And I'm also going to add a little bit of pork sausage. This is about half cup. I'm going to be adding about, not that much. About a teaspoon of garlic powder. And if you watched my spice video, I made some jalapeno lime salt. And I'm going to add a heaping tablespoon. And the jalapenos and lime in that is the zest, and it's not really that much pepper, so the amount of carbs in that is less than 1, if anything. Don't take my word for it, look it up. I'm also going to be using some dark red chili powder. This has chili pepper, salt, cumin, oregano, and garlic powder. And it has 0 carbs per quarter teaspoon. Now I'm going to be using more than a quarter teaspoon. I'll probably put several heaping tablespoons in there, so you could count that as, look it up how many carbs it is. It's not that much. One more. Okay. Now I have homemade tomato sauce that I've made that has just salt and basil in it. I'm going to be using this organic canned tomato sauce. This has 7 servings in a container, so it shows you how many carbs are in tomatoes. So a serving is a quarter cup, and out of that quarter cup, it has 5 grams of carbs. Now I'm going to put this whole thing in here, but this will feed us for several days. And I wanted to be sure of the carb count, which is why I'm not using my... Now I like to put cinnamon in my chili. This is a ground Saigon cinnamon, has no carbs, has no information actually. But I'm just going to be using a little bit. So that's about half teaspoon, maybe a little more. 1 bell pepper, or about a cup of bell peppers, has 4.9 carbs. So this is mixed peppers, so they're both sweet and spicy. And I'm going to add about a cup. These were from our garden and they've been in the freezer. So I'm trying to work through my freezer. My garden next year is going to be very different. Now, onions. You wouldn't think that onions had a lot of carbs in them, but they call them sweet onions for a reason. 1 onion has 7.6 grams, and that's about 3.5 ounces. So 3.5 ounces of onions has 7.6 grams. Now I like to use a lot of onion, but because I'm using fresh peppers, I want to keep that carb level down, and I've already added peppers and tomatoes, and that's already pushing it up closer to 10. So I want to make sure that I don't add extra, but I still want to get the onion taste. So I'm going to be using onion powder this time. There is absolutely no nutritional information on this container. I didn't think that was legal, but apparently it is. But according to Siri, a teaspoon has 1.9 grams of carbs. And I'm using probably a good tablespoon. This is homegrown cilantro, and the carbs in 1 sprig fresh is less than 1. So I'm using dried. I'm not going to use a lot, but I want it to season. And that's it. I'm going to turn this on. This will probably feed us for 2 meals. So I'm going to break up my meat, and I'm going to turn this on high and let it start cooking. Then I'll turn it down to low. In the meantime, while this is cooking, I'm going to start making my keto cloud bread. All right, for the keto cloud bread, you're going to turn your oven on to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and get it heated up. I have in this bowl 3 egg yolks, and in this bowl 3 egg whites with a pinch of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar will help your egg whites to stiffen. So I have my egg whites here with a pinch of cream of tartar. To my egg yolks, I'm going to add a pinch of salt and 3 ounces of softened cream cheese. And that goes in your yolks. Now, if you beat your yolks up first and then try to beat your egg whites, you might have a failure there, because if you get the yolk and the whites, they don't seem to stiffen up, and that's what you want to do. So I'm going to beat my egg whites until stiff peaks form. Now when you lift up your beaters, if it doesn't form a peak and stay there like this, I don't know if the camera shows that well, they're not quite done. But this is showing good peaks. I'm going to go ahead and whip just a minute more. Don't overbeat them, but I'll feel better putting in the egg yolk and cream cheese once I know that these are stiffened up. And you can tell by looking at the beater, they're holding their shape. They get real shiny, so you know when they're done. Now I'm going to mix my cream cheese and my egg yolks and my salt. And you just want that well incorporated. Now I'm going to fold it into my whites. So you want to do this without breaking down your egg whites, so you're going to very gently fold this in. You're not mixing. that's my oven coming up to temp, so it's ready. You're going to want to take a cookie sheet and line it with parchment paper. Now this recipe makes 6 servings. Each serving is 1 carb. And you just want 6 mounds. Now once you've got that all on there, you're going to kind of flatten them out. And these will go into the oven for 25 to 30 minutes, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want to overcook them. If you do, they won't be soft, they'll be crumbly. So the cloud bread is now in the oven cooking. And finally, to the chili, I've got 1 teaspoon of better than bouillon beef, and this says it has less than 2 carbs per serving, and that's 1 teaspoon. Now obviously I'm not going to eat the whole teaspoon of bouillon. That gets mixed and into 4 different servings, so we're still well under 10. So in keeping with the less than 30 carbs a day, we're well under that, even if we ate all 6 of the cloud bread. Now Mike is going to end up adding sour cream to the top of his chili. I don't like sour cream, but if I had cheddar cheese here, I would put a little sprinkle of cheddar cheese on that. It's a hard cheese and it's lower in carbs. So I'm going to put this into my chili. It's 1 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of better than bouillon. If you don't have this, you can use a cube of bouillon. Read the label and see that there's no sugar in it. Or you could add beef bone broth. Either way it would work. Now these are out of the oven. They turned out nice. I'm not sure what they taste like yet. I've got to let them cool for 3 to 5 minutes. They're quite soft right now, so I'm not sure. Okay, these have had a chance to cool off. They're very light, as you might expect, because of the egg whites. But how they taste. The texture isn't off, but with something like a chili, this would probably be great. Now some people have suggested putting stevia or any kind of monk fruit, any kind of a sweetener and some cinnamon on it, and it would be a sweet bread. So let me try that. So this is packaged Truvia. It does have erythritol in it. 2 grams of carbs, so I don't want to use a lot of this. I like the monk fruit allulose much better. Put a little bit of cinnamon on it and see how that tastes. That's pretty good. I would eat it this way. And it's pretty eggy. Would I make these again? They weren't hard to make. And they're not bad. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are trying to replace their old comfort foods with other foods when they go on a keto carnivore diet. It's the number one thing I see on posts is, what do I do when I'm craving bread? What do I do when I'm craving this and that? Honestly, if you're not eating the carbs, the ultra processed high sugar carbs, you don't really crave them after the first week. I don't crave them at all. Even when we gave ourselves a cheat at Christmas time, I ate a low carb cheesecake. I didn't eat anything with sugar. Mike ate carrot cake. I would never do that. But so if you stick to the keto way of living and cut out your sugar and your super refined food, you really don't crave the carbs. So would I make this? I might make it again. It won't replace your bread. It won't replace cinnamon toast. In this case, I put Truvia and cinnamon on it. It won't replace that. But would it help? I don't know. You'd have to try it yourself. So this won't replace your bread. It's not the same texture. It's not the same taste. Like I said, it's eggy. It tastes pretty good by itself, and with chili, it might be great. It doesn't taste like cinnamon toast. It tastes kind of cheesy, and there is cream cheese in this, so that must be where the taste is coming from, even though cream cheese to me isn't real cheesy. So I might make it again. If you're sticking to a keto diet, you don't really have the cravings. So those go away after the first week or two. I don't crave those things. Mike thinks he craves them sometimes. And once he starts eating the processed food with the carbohydrates in it, such as carrot cake, that's made with flour and a lot of sugar, he does crave them. But if you're thinking of replacing bread with cloud bread, you're not going to get the same taste. You're not going to get the same satisfaction. They're very different. This is more cheesy because of the cream cheese, and eggy because it's made of cream cheese and eggs. But it is kind of fun, and it was a fun little experiment. Let me know if you try it or if you have an alternative you go to. Okay, so there's my low-carb chili.
Low-carb chili.
And my cloud bread.
And cloud bread.
Right, and we want an honest opinion.
Now I'm really curious about the cloud bread. This is something a little bit new, different, so I'm excited about that. Before I get into tasting this, I just want to thank y'all. You've been really kind to my wife. She really enjoys making these videos, and I know she gets a real kick out of it when you guys enjoy making the food that she's introducing to you. So thank you so much for being kind to her. Without further ado, it's dinner time. Let's start with some chili here. That's a good one, hon.
Now the big question is the bread.
I just want to say, it makes a difference that you use our peppers. I can taste the difference, but it's really, it's interesting that chili peppers tend to hold their flavor much better than other things that you might preserve out of the garden. So even the chili powder that you get from the grocery store has got enough pizzazz in it to make a really good chili. And there's just nothing wrong with a good chili, especially this time of year. It's just perfect.
Good.
So what is cloud bread like?
That's what you're going to tell us. Is it something you like?
It looks like bread. It feels nice and fluffy and light like bread, and you've got this nice crust on it. It pulls apart and looks on the inside just like a hamburger bun or a roll. It's interesting. It's not bread.
No, that's
it's
what I said.
definitely not bread. It's more like, I don't know, when I was growing up, I cooked a lot for the family. If you cooked, you didn't have to do dishes. So I cooked every night for a family of 7. And I was really fond of a recipe that was on the back of a Bisquick box. It was for popovers, which were these really light, fluffy, air-filled little muffin things. Very similar to this. It's nice, it's pleasant. How does it go with the chili?
I'm hoping that it goes really good. Now, it was super easy to make.
The chili stands alone by itself. It's similar if you had a nice big piece of sourdough bread to go with your chili, but it's definitely not bread.
That's what my conclusion was, the same.
I don't know if you were jonesing and you were having a hard time making a transition to like a carnivore diet where you're not eating any bread or carbohydrates at all. This might be a nice substitute to help relieve some of that stress. But for the most part, it's just an interesting piece of bread.
Right.
No different than any other interesting dinner roll.
It's not really a dinner roll. It's
No.
cheesy.
Yes.
It's eggy.
Yeah.
And some people use it as bread for a sandwich. I don't see that happening.
I don't see going through the trouble to make this in order to make a sandwich.
Me either.
I'd much rather just eat the meat and cheese.
Right. That was my conclusion.
We do appreciate you joining us here on the Return Homestead today. It is after dinner time, so I'm going to go ahead and finish my dinner. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do so. Hit that like button while you're in there so the algorithm knows to share this video out with other people. Thank you again for being so kind to my wife. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Next week, we're going to be testing pancakes. So when I eat pancakes and they're keto, they're made out of usually coconut flour or almond flour, and they're very heavy. So I've got several recipes I'm going to be trying to see if I get anything close to a fluffy pancake, something a little lighter. I don't know. We'll try. But until we see you next time, thank you and God bless. Bye-bye.